Welcome to Selling Out.
Coming up on today's episode.
People are weaponising labels to sow division.
If anything, it's getting a lot worse for people in the community.
I did a lot of arguing with people last year because of their terrible High Court ruling around what is a woman.
Every other speaker was a man and they were charging double what you were.
And you snapped him up and married him.
Before we welcome today's guests, a quick thank you to our brilliant sponsors.
Yeah, if you're heading to Brighton and you want to make the trip legendary, quite literally, book your stay at Legends Hotel right on the seafront and just steps away from the city's best nightlife.
They're also the home to some of Brighton's hottest drag shows, so you can sleep, sip and party all in one place.
Book at legendsresortbrighton.com and tell them we sent you.
And if your current headache is less, where am I staying this weekend, and more, how do I buy this house?
Mortgage Medics have you covered. They specialise in straightforward, no drama mortgage advice, whether you're buying your first place, moving up or refinancing.
Their team take the stress out of the process, find the right deal for you and make sure you're smiling long after you got those keys.
Basically, they're your home owning headache cure.
So go to mortgage-medics.com and tell them we sent you.
Welcome to Selling Out.
Welcome, Alex Ryan and Sarah Archer. Welcome to Selling Out.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
How you doing? You all right?
Good, really good. It's nice here, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
Little setup.
Very snazzy.
Beautiful.
So we'll start as we always start. Can you please tell our lovely listeners your pronouns and how you identify? What letter of our lovely mafia, or alphabet mafia, are you?
Yes. So I'm a he, him. Mm-hmm. My name's Alex Ryan and I'm a he, him. I came out as a B, then I very quickly progressed to a G, as I think a lot of young teenagers do. B is easier than G, isn't it?
B with G rising.
Yeah, B with G rising, exactly. And then eventually I just jumped on the Q bandwagon, and I think that's the easiest thing for me now. So here and queer.
Queer. And Sarah?
Sarah Archer. I am a she, her, and I identify with a G, I think. I hadn't really given this much thought, but if I'm pressed, I would say that because I think it feels more natural. I don't know why.
Gay woman.
Yeah, gay
It's quite
woman.
nice not to have to give it much thought. It's
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just and I like joy. So the whole sort of other version of gay
Yeah.
is really,
Yeah, I
I
like
think it's
that.
a bit personality led as well.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit before on our here about that and about how, I think a lot of us in the community, we, the ideal is that we're in a scenario where we don't have to have these kind of restraint. Not that they are restraints, because like I've said, and Alex has alluded to, we are not trapped by them. We're actually informed by them and are able to express and change and come out in beautiful ways as we discover life and people. And, we talked on previous episodes, me and Gary, about the fact that in Northern Ireland, there was no representation whenever we were growing up, and it was actually a religious...
You're either a P or a C?
You were a P or a C.
Yeah.
Oh,
Protestant
yeah.
Catholic. And never the two shall meet. Although my mum was a Catholic and my dad's a Protestant. Anyway, side note. But yes, it's a thing we can embrace it, and I think in the future, hopefully, we're not required to have those kind of labels. But right now, the hope is that we can sort of give some representation of who we are. And
That's the,
shout out.
that's the end of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not having to have labels.
Yeah.
But we're not there.
We're
We have to have labels because it shouts.
Exactly.
Shouts
We
that
didn't
we're
do-
here,
well,
isn't
we've
it?
done them on the other episodes, but you didn't do yours. So I'm a G.
Yes.
Why didn't
Nice.
you do mine?
G for Gary.
G for Gary.
And which of
G for gay.
Oh, okay, as well.
Do you know, mine isn't actually... Well, I am very much Q. Like and we've had this talk in other episodes as well, where we debate the use of the word queer, and Sean was talking about how, queer in the past has had obviously different connotations to it and has been reclaimed, and is something that I feel very strongly about because I am gender fluid, I'm non-binary, and I use they them pronouns, and I also pansexual. Something I've always known, but have always slipped into that G kind of, I think, world, because I've been with Gary for a very long, lovely time. And I think your brain just kind of goes, oh, well, if I have that feeling, then that's me, I'm that. So it's been quite a lovely exploration of kind of my gender and the way my brain works, that it's actually floating somewhere in between everything.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I know people that have been married in straight relationships for 25 years, but the wife is bisexual. Being in a straight relationship for 25 years doesn't change
your
brain.
bisexuality does not disappear based on your relationships, and I think that's why it's such a struggle to get bi representation out there, because why would you inflict that on yourself whenever you see what happens to people who come out and you see the things that come from society, when actually you should just be allowed to. I mean, nature is more broad, diverse and beautiful than binary boxes. I think is what we know. Anyway, we don't usually spend that long in that section, but that was a joyous opener. I think. I hope all of our lovely listeners.
So we'll start with our first question.
Yes,
we'll start with you, Sarah. So, what was your first job?
I was contemplating this. So it depends whether you mean like Saturday job or job.
Give us both.
Because I mean, my first jobs. I think I remember working for £1.24 an hour in Littlewoods as a Saturday girl, and also at the same time cleaning my school toilets. As an extra, I don't know why I was so interested in money to the point that I would do that, because I obviously got a lot of grief from people who saw me doing that. But my first job was selling Situations Vacant for a newspaper.
Situations Vacant.
Sitsvac, which was a thankless job, but I did learn a lot from it. So
in sales from the get-go back then.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we talk about my career. It's been all over the place, but started off in sales effectively.
Wow. And for the I don't know if we've got Gen Z listenership, but explain what Littlewoods is.
Littlewoods. Gosh, I think there's still a Littlewoods. There used to be a Littlewoods catalogue. There is Littlewoods catalogue. So I guess Littlewoods was
I think we'll have to explain
like,
catalogue next as well.
And Situations Vacant. I don't know what's going on here.
It's a bit like Primani. It was a clothes shop, from what I can remember.
Yeah.
I don't think they had soul food. It's like the clothes bit of Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah, but I think they did do homeware.
They may have done.
I think
it was
so,
a long.
I remember it in Belfast.
I think my mum used to have Kay's catalogue. Was it Kay's catalogue? And order furniture from Freeman's and then Littlewoods. It was that whole world.
Yeah. So anyway,
Alex's mind is blown. Hey, you're not that young,
Alex is pretending.
I'm too young.
I'm too young.
I'm just I'll just go with ignorance. Actually, it sounds a bit like a TK Maxx to me, but that's the only shop I know.
Yeah,
so.
well,
maybe. And Situations Vacant.
So essentially, in the old days, when we had travel agents on the high street, when people were up and down the cobbles with hovers, effectively, you used to go and look for a job in a newspaper. That was the way people looked for jobs. You did have high street temp agencies and that sort of thing, but you'd open up your newspaper and inside it would be Situations Vacant, which basically means, job ads. So I would phone up companies and I would say, have you got any jobs that you want to advertise with our lovely paper? That's what I did when I was 18.
Shout out to all of those montages in movies from the 90s where people got the newspapers and scored out as they went through lots of phone calls.
Yeah.
Remember that? That was a thing.
I think I got my job in 2007. I seen that in the Belfast Telegraph for the Co-op Bank. That was 2007, almost 20 years ago. But yeah, that was.
How times have changed. We just went to a Gadio event in. It was the one in Manchester, and a lovely partner of Gadio who also sponsors the networking events is from Indeed Flex. Not a paid sponsorship, but Indeed Flex, who now work with a lot of companies across the world on interviewing people with AI agents that get them into jobs and positions that they need to so they can basically have an interview and be hired for a job within the space of a few hours and be stacking shelves and be doing whatever these massive organizations who have loads of job slots available, who would traditionally have to have interviewed them and vetted them and got them through, can now get rid of all of that with the kind of questionnaire checks and profile checks.
So
amazing, isn't it?
Back to Sarah's first job.
Back to your first job.
Let's keep on track.
It's
here,
still
people.
part of it. It's the business world, and how we've advanced.
No, it's good, but...
So fab. Okay, so then the Situations Vacant sales, and now Alex, first job. Tell us.
I had the same problem as Sarah, and kind of interpreting the question, because in primary school, I found a porn mag down an alleyway. and ripped up the pages and sold them for 20p a pop.
Nice.
Until I got caught, and that was an embarrassing one.
Wait, how old were you?
Primary school.
Primary school.
Middle of primary school. Yeah. So what, like 8, 9 or
So an
something?
entrepreneur at
Yeah.
Early days, yeah.
Wow, sex sells.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I went through all the usual less interesting stuff of like, paper round, pizza delivery boy, then pub work. Pub work led me to Brighton, actually. So I got seconded down to Brighton to work at Charles Street for a Pride, which was my first introduction to Brighton or Pride, and never left. Wow. So yeah, worked and lived at Charles Street for the next however long. Bar work led me to DJing. DJing led me to promotions and marketing. So I guess like my first proper job, I would say, was actually marketing, as in 2012. The fantastic David Hill, E3 events company, engaged me with no marketing qualifications, but gave me that shot to take control of their social media and email marketing and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that was probably my first actual job that meant anything beyond DJing, which was an absolute joy and still is, of course. But yeah, I think that was the first one.
Yeah, we've spoken about our first jobs being at Argos, where we met in other episodes.
My first job. That was your first job. That wasn't mine.
Well, actually, my first job, because you've just taken it right back to school, you just flared a memory in me where I used to sell a very innocent side of what I used to sell friendship bracelets with friends in school, in primary school.
Yes.
Didn't make as much money as you,
Didn't make
Alex.
any money.
Wow.
Not porn pages could have.
Yeah, mine didn't last very long, actually. That's so you
Is
might
that
have
'cause you
made
run
more
out of
money.
magazine pages?
No, I got caught. Yeah, I got caught, and full parents headmaster, very embarrassing at that age. You've just reminded me, actually, I was a drum teacher as well at one
drum
point.
teacher?
Yeah, I've got
Lots
a
of
real
jobs.
variety of careers. It's a bit wacky. I think it's the ADHD. I'm an original ADHD gangster, diagnosed 1998, Ritalin in the works. And I just say yes to everything. So I've tour managed comedians across Canada and loads of wild jobs. I just say yes to everything, which is why I've got about 6 jobs now.
Which we're going to get into.
Yeah, I love
it. And what were you going to say your first job was?
My
Walker?
first job was McDonald's, and I earned
you didn't tell us
£2.85 an hour. But that was
Wow.
1997, 97, yeah, 96, 96,
Wow.
1996. £2.85 an hour, and you got paid for it now.
You are
It's
much
fab.
older than me, aren't you?
I bet you weren't on a 0 hours though at that point. I bet do you have full-time contract? Probably
Oh no,
no
I was a
actually.
part-time crew member. You just got there probably was zero. You just back then, even then in McDonald's, you did just the hours, but there was always the hours there because it was so busy. But yeah, but we were a franchise store. But yeah, if you could work more hours, they give them to you. But I was part-time when I first started. But £2.85 an hour. My dad still has my first payslip.
I didn't realise you guys were an Argos romance.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Met
Iconic.
across that aisle with the catalogs. It was romantic. The lights went low.
Yeah.
No, it was. I started as a Christmas temp, and Gary was a manager.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That was it.
That sounds
Did
a
we
little
talk
bit.
about that before? No, not yet.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that before.
So tell us. Obviously, the podcast is selling out.
Yeah.
What we talk about a lot is, that idea of, it's come up a few times where we talk about going into the world of work, and it's a stressful enough thing to get into a career, to embark upon a career, and not really know where it's going to go. But then also have that thing, which some of us may have more than others, about our identity, the thing that we're maybe hiding, or the thing that it's not safe to disclose, or the thing that we're not comfortable disclosing, or it's just, whatever way that manifests in whatever time we went into work. I think we spoke before to Michael Gallagher, who talked about the fact that in the 80s, joining the Met for the police force, it just wasn't something that he would think about disclosing at that point, but then went on to be an out, open gay man within the force and led their LGBTQIA kind of groups. But how did you feel? Talk us about maybe the next job that you went into, or whenever you got into the world of work where it felt like a career. How did that feel? Were you able to be yourself? Take us back to then, and how you were identifying, Sarah?
I guess my journey's been a little. Well, I don't know. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that resonate with the journey that I've been on. But essentially, in my career, I went from SITS-FAC into IT, moved to Germany at 3 days before my 21st birthday, and then switched into HR. But for all of that time, I thought I was straight, and I got married, and I had a daughter. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, I'd always been a tomboy when I was young. But back to what we were saying at the start of the conversation, when I was young, I didn't know of any gay women. I didn't see gay women on the TV. There was only one type of, maybe I saw a few gay women, and they were very much, in that butch camp, which nothing wrong. But
You didn't see yourself.
I didn't see, and I didn't even know. I didn't even know. It didn't even sort of cross my mind. There was like you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids. So I had my daughter, and when I was pregnant with my daughter, I started having dreams about women and stuff like that. And then when my daughter was about, I don't know, 3, I realized that I was, falling for women, and maybe I wasn't straight. And at the time that I came out, I was actually working for the Research Council, which is public, non-departmental public sector organisation, and I was in charge of diversity. So they actually gave me a pay rise. No, they didn't really. I'm just making it up. But talk about
Can you imagine if you get an extra tick?
So I was very fortunate to come out.
That'll be
Oh
a
my
cut on
God,
my social
that'll be a
media.
clip. That'll be a clip. So what's your story, Sarah? I came out to get a pay rise. Actually, I'm not actually.
So yeah, I was very fortunate when I came out in the workplace. I was in an organisation that was very supportive, and then ever since, I've made the switch from HR. I started doing stand-up comedy, and when I did stand-up comedy, back when, Isabel it was about the same time, I guess, maybe a little bit before, I was using that as a shtick. And I think that was the wrong move, because I became, and I think it's something that you can go to, is like, oh, that's what's different about me. And I think that was not a good move, because I think it sort of hid my persona. But anyway, answering the question, I was lucky, I think. I don't think that I've really felt anything, any negative consequences of being gay. I felt negative consequences of being a woman in some aspects of my career, and indeed comedy as well.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And I say more, actually, I can see detriments of being a woman more so than being gay, which is really interesting
and mad.
Yeah,
Absolutely mad. Can I ask?
of course.
Do you think being pregnant turned you gay, or flicked a switch? Sorry, that was the
that's
headline.
definitely going to be in the clip.
That's the
gonna be a
headline.
clip.
But like the way you told the story, there was it was like there was maybe an awakening, and of course, the body is a huge change, right?
I'm going to be really honest with you as well, and I'm sorry to say that, like, it's really interesting. I remember seeing. Do you remember that film? Was it American? There was a film out. I'm sure it had American in the title, and one of the guys in this film was very homophobic. And I remember when I was young, I remember being at school, Catholic school, I was very homophobic. And I was like, they should all go on an island. Like, get them on an island, which today sounds like a great idea. Like, let's have a
party.
Take me there.
And I don't know if that was subconsciously that inner turmoil going on when I was younger. And so when I was pregnant, my first thought was, I'm having these thoughts about women. Is that going to make my baby gay? That's really bad. I'm being completely honest.
No.
And I was
Wow.
like, I was sort of, that was one of the thoughts that went through my head. And then I had my daughter, and it was maybe when she was 1.5 that I actually I was doing an acting course in Oxford, part-time acting course. And I and this is really, I don't know if I'm being so honest here, but anyway, we go. So I would take my wedding ring off, because I was married. I would try and find a gay bar or whatever it is. I didn't know anything. Like I thought, I looked up pubs. So I just wanted to sort of see in that environment if it felt right. But I didn't find any. It was a really interesting, difficult time.
Do you know what? It's really interesting you say that, because I think a lot of the times when we speak about things with guests, that it's about like people forget, and actually they don't, because we're in no means in a perfect scenario right now. If anything, it's getting a little bit. A lot worse for people in the community, but there are definitely those times. I definitely resonate with that, where we would go on holiday and you'd sort of find a gay bar, you have to knock on the door, and like in these European places where it's like behind closed doors and it's got security, and yes, some of that was for the protection of the people going there, but a lot of the times it was this shameful thing that's inbuilt in us, especially with the Catholic Church being part of that. From what you say, I grew up sort of without a lot of religion, but my mum is Catholic and was raised Catholic, and my dad was raised Protestant, and thankfully I've got that melting pot of kind of understanding of the different sides of it. But it definitely, with everything that happens, it builds this level of shame in us where it almost doesn't, you feel so wrong for a lot of the things you do, and you feel wrong even for that thing of like trying to find, like, I feel like there's a real yearning for your community whenever you grow up queer, because you don't have the sibling, unless you have siblings who are, but you don't have the people around you. And for us, definitely not friendship groups when I was growing up, because I don't think there was anyone else gay that I knew of. Looking back, there's people who've come out since, but it's that yearning to find your community. I think whenever you go to these, you try to find these spaces, and it's hard and it's buried away sometimes.
But in answer to your question, no, I don't think it did. But maybe I don't know. Like maybe something triggered.
Maybe more of just like a life realization, a moment of clarity or something.
Well,
it's such a significant moment, right?
Exactly. Pregnancy is a real full, like, human, natural experience of, all these different things that are happening then. Yeah. And as we know, queerness is not unique to the human species, but homophobia is. So it's identified. I've read a really good book recently, side note, but there's a book called Bitch by Emma. I can't remember the author.
That's a funny surname.
It's
Emma O.
It's but oh god, why can I not remember? But it's called Bitch, and it's about nature and how it's the female of the species. It's about the female of the species, and how actually Darwinism, which is always very masculine, very like this group of birds behave like this. That is odd. That's out of character. And actually, they've realised that bird species all are quite matriarchy. A lot of them are matriarchy dominant, and there's all these instances. And it's a fascinating book, and it's a really easy read for essentially biology and anthropology and stuff, but it's fascinating about how much diversity actually exists in the natural world, and to put it into binary boxes is
crazy.
Just painted as this most ridiculous thing when you read this book.
It's the most simple way of explaining to someone who doesn't get it why trans people are trans, or why trans people exist. If you need to explain it, you just need to remind them it's the same reason that men have nipples, because we were all women to start off with, and some people don't change quite so much as other people in their growth in the womb, in their development. It's a really simple. It's really not complicated to understand the existence of trans people. And men have nipples, so therefore trans people exist. It's obvious, right? Like,
and also the whole audaciousness of saying that, oh, how dare you do that, whenever actually, all sorts of things that people change about themselves, or surgeries, or it's not a trans only thing to adjust and modify yourself. So
my name's Alexander, but please call me Alex. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really not. It's not complex, is it?
Exactly.
There we go.
So
let's get back on track. Johnny's becoming
why
fast.
do you keep saying back on track? This is the track.
Alison, you're like,
actually, I was going to say, so you just to link back, to close this loop, you said that whenever you were pregnant, you had those thoughts about, is my daughter going to be gay if I have these thoughts? Is your daughter identify as straight?
So my daughter she's in a relationship with a man, but she identifies as bisexual.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. And I think she's, her father and I kept a really close relationship. He's a brilliant, lovely man. We ended up living across the road from each other and sharing care. And I think she feels her life is richer because of the background that she's come from. So.
Nice.
I love that.
And I think it helped her get into Oxford University. So, yeah.
Yes, well done. Shout out Isabel. Is it Isabel?
Isabel,
Shout
yeah.
out Isabel. Well done,
Amazing.
smart cookie.
Alex, so your first job, or first where you were your true self, do you remember that? Was it?
Yeah. And no. Well, the answer, do I remember it, is no, because I'll be completely honest. From a queer acceptance, or as in my youth, gay acceptance perspective, I have led a truly privileged life. I had no... although I still came out late just because sex is embarrassing, right? So I came out late because of that, not because of any homophobia that I witnessed or was worried about. I never got bullied at school much, at the occasional like, oh, puff, or whatever, in the corridor. But they were like, I got on with everyone at school. There was nothing horrible. Family, exactly the same. Complete and utter acceptance. Half my family is incredibly religious, one side, like keys to the church religious, but nothing but love and support and acceptance from them. I have always been out from when I was out in every work scenario and have never felt any negative impact on my life from being queer. So I'm really aware that I'm incredibly privileged to have had that journey, because it is not normal, I don't think, to have had that smooth a ride. But I tell you, and sorry, I'm not really going to talk about the job, which was marketing again. I went into marketing, and then with E3, and then I applied for a job 4 times the salary that I really shouldn't have been applying for, and I got it and ended up as head of marketing for a £60 million business. So that was a weird move, but still completely out and no issues there. But what I would say is that by having such a smooth ride with my kind of with queerness in my life, I think what that did to me was it drove me towards the other stuff that I do outside of work, because work's work. And okay, if in any business I was in, I was the one, launching, setting up the charity committee or the sustainability committee or whatever. And it was always there was a bit of give there, but actually it was, I realised I had a smooth ride, and I wanted to understand people that didn't. Like, exposure is everything, like to see those other journeys and do what I could to help, which is why I can't even remember, like 15 years ago I joined the board of National Student Pride, was on their as a voluntary role production director for a decade, and then in more recent years the Gadio role. I think that is what has driven that, because it feels good to help. I want to do my bit to progress queer rights, but not because I struggled, but because I didn't. And I think it's like I've seen what the other side could look like of just having the perfect queer upbringing. I've seen that, and it horrifies me even more. And I have a huge lack of understanding of of homophobia. I cannot get my head around it from a academic perspective. Of course, I get it, an understanding of human nature, but from a feels perspective, I do not get it. And therefore, I think that's why I've probably gone down that route of trying to get involved in queer politics almost for the last 15 odd years.
So where were you brought up? Where did you live as a kid?
Reigate. So Surrey.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
very
So
middle class, leafy suburb vibes. Yeah, really nice. I was the only gay in the village. Like there was the first pub I worked in, there was an old guy in there who was gay, and became a good friend straight away. But yeah, there were no gays around. I'd finish work on a Sunday and drive to Chicago's in Chelmsford, like an hour and a quarter drive. Drive there at 11 o'clock, get there just gone midnight to have a bit of a boogie on their Sunday night queer night. Right, like that's there was nothing in Reigate from a queer perspective at all. Nothing. Wow. Yeah. So it was siloed, but no issues.
It's interesting you say, and I really believe that it's our job to kind of lead the way for future generations of, not to sound really old, but like future generations of queer people, and they in themselves will teach younger friends that we have teach us stuff all the time, right, about
absolutely
being queer and being in the community. But the more we talk to people about it, I think it's not actually unusual for that kind of either there's the side where you just it isn't safe to come out, it isn't safe to be yourself, and you put on your work persona, you put on this, and then there's not always the need to do that. I do wonder now whether, with everything, it's that kind of trope of, Lily Savage back in the day was hosting a Saturday night TV show before Watershed. Everyone found it hilarious and no one questioned. No one was saying, oh, you're coming for our children. There was none of that. Whereas now with this whole furor around DEI and like what are trans people doing to like this debate that is kind of frothing up and all of that, I think it does boil down now to fear. It boils down to people feeling that their identities are somehow being taken away by other people being open and honest about their own. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I do think that it's about identity, but I also think that it's also driven a little bit about politics and about how people are trying to push forward. Because yes, it's all about DEI and all of these things, but I do think that people use it as a weapon.
I think it's entirely.
People,
I think it's entirely politicized.
It's to make people feel that they're threatened. It's to make people. If you just look back in the history of Northern Ireland, where I grew up going to an integrated school, that's what it was all about. Each side stoking fear against the other one. Oh, Catholics will do this. Oh, Protestants will do
control,
this.
Yeah.
And it is all about control. No matter whether it's migrants, whether it's trans people. It's just they just use every person as a weapon, and it's kind of creating division. I feel it's just madness. It's not about. You talked about it a little bit in the car. We don't talk about people. We talk about a label, right? And
this is what I talk to speakers about. So today I coach speakers, and one of the things that I say, so I said in the car, I feel that people are weaponizing labels to sow division.
Absolutely.
But the biggest reason that works is because of ignorance. And I think, and as I always say to my speakers, if you have a look at Children in Need or Comic Relief or anything like that, where they are trying to get you bought in to helping with malaria or whatever, they will go down to a micro level first and talk about a little boy and his family in a village, and you will become emotionally engaged with that person and their story before they extrapolate up and look at the headline statistics, because it's easy when you are able to keep things at a distance and talk about big numbers or big groups. But once you begin to peel that all away and look at a person and seeing the human being and what is the same, I think it's much harder for those labels to have the same power. The same with women, burqa wearing women. You can see them as an object. Yeah,
it removes their humanity.
Yeah, and as soon as you can start to tell the story of an individual before you extrapolate up, I think it gives you so much more power and connection with people.
Totally. Every time, and we spoke about this, you find people as well who have these beliefs, and when you have that conversation, and conversation is power, like having a conversation with someone, and I always say these people who fear, I keep on coming back to trans, but the trans community is under attack, and right now more so than ever, and having that, and it used to be that old trope of, oh, some of my best friends are gay, I can't be homophobic. It doesn't, it is not about that. It's almost, you're conflating different things. And actually, when you have a conversation with someone in the community, you're never going to end up in the scenario where you're not going to come away understanding something more. And like you say, whenever you go, the stories, it's not manipulation showing someone who's suffering, a child that's suffering. It is showing you the people. It's showing you the person, which as humans, and it sounds mad because it's such a globalized world now and we see things through screens, and people interact with people at every level, and there's all these strategies around marketing, as you know, and social media, where it's about make it more authentic, make it more personable, because we are hardwired to engage and empathize with people, unless we're psychopaths, to engage with people. And I think every time it goes into statistic, you lose that, and there's so much strategy and politics around dehumanizing certain parts of our community, but also with women's rights, with the way things are depicted, and and shown, it takes away the human. And as soon as you have a conversation with someone, that's when it starts to move forward. And
That's just took me back to a thing that you should watch, and it's from about 10 years ago. It's the Darren Brown Experience. If you remember
it's
that.
so good.
And the guy, they had this audience that they were voting on this guy, and basically they didn't know what was going to happen. But in the end, the outcome was that it's bad, right? And then when he flips it round in the room, and then people see the real life and the real person, people become. It's a whole. It's an amazing episode.
humanising,
It's a social media. He says it's a social experiment. We've got this guy. We've got cameras all around him, and the audience are anonymous, and they're voting anonymously, and they're just watching. They're all having a laugh.
Next?
What happens next? Do you want to give him the best day? And it's human nature to sort of be curious about. Oh no! Do the bad thing. Do this. Do that. Give him £1,000 or get him mugged in the street.
Yeah,
It's
a really interesting episode. It's about 10 years old, but that made me think about that, because it just he kind of basically dehumanized him. Well, the audience did.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was real.
but you're right. It is a very clear political tactic, and I think last year I did a lot of arguing with people last year because of their terrible High Court ruling around what is a woman. Right, I had a huge amount of arguments, and I eventually got to a way of my most successful outcome was when I didn't talk about at a macro level, when I simply pulled out my phone and my Facebook and I said, this is my friend Robin, beautiful busty blonde, you think she should be in the men's toilets? Really? Oh, and by the way, this is my friend Julian, big beefy man with a beard and tattoos, and you think he should be in the women's toilets next to your wife and daughter? Like, that's what you're suggesting, because if you don't know trans people, then it's understandable why you can just buy into the rhetoric that's being sold to you, because it's dehumanized. But when I show you real humans who I am friends with, have been for 20 years, and Julian with a 45-year-old man who's been in a relationship a straight relationship, married for 30 years and has kids, and you want him to go into the female toilets, like that was where I had the most success. I hadn't really labelled it in that way, but that I absolutely see that now, that you're taking it to a human level, and when you're looking another human in the eyes and going, yeah, they should probably be in the men's toilets. Yes, they should. Done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is the thing, anytime you want to make an argument, find the story about the one person first, and then go to the high level picture, and that will really make it much more powerful for you.
I love that.
So let's jump to where your career is now. So obviously, Alex, you've alluded to some of the stuff. You DJ, marketing maverick, and with your own. I'm
so glad you didn't use guru. That's so overdone, and it's guru is supposed to be very spiritual.
It is, and now it's been connected to the business world.
Yeah, marketing certainly is not particularly spiritual.
And now
it's the opposite of spiritual. No, that's marketing. Cold. Awful. Yeah. It's a terrible trend.
And also, as we were discussing beforehand, now distiller going into you're a vermouth sleuth.
Oh my gosh, well done.
Should I be a
fabulous? Yeah, that's great.
How did we end up here, Alex? Talk about that.
Okay, yeah. But, I mean, very briefly, the big corporate job I referred to was a job over in Shoreham, a brilliant company called Paladone. But Paladone were in movie merchandise and kind of gaming memorabilia and gift. It was all retail. So the pandemic hit, and high streets closed. So that business was hugely affected. Once I escaped from Morocco, because that's where I was when the pandemic hit, and they shut the airports like that overnight. So repatriation flight. Thank you, Ryanair, by the way. Never thought I'd be so happy to get on a Ryanair flight, but
also not paid, but you can give us money if you want.
But they rescued us from Morocco, so I can't thank them enough. Anyway, got back, furloughed my entire marketing team, global marketing team, furloughed myself, played Fortnite for a week, obviously, like everyone did in furlough. But yeah, I kind of got bored, and I guess the official kind of brand story is that I started doing voluntary marketing to keep my kind of head in the game. So I worked with 35 businesses just as a marketing consultant. I actually set up a little brand, the Furloughed Marketer. The marketer in me wants to tell the truth, which is, whilst that was all really genuine and I love doing it, I I spotted an opportunity, which was I'd quite like to run my own agency. I had always wanted to run my own agency. I wanted to get out of. I'd only been in PAYE for 6-8 years or something. I wanted to get back to being self-employed, from like I was when I was throughout the DJ career. So I saw an opportunity to launch with a great brand, and a great brand story. So did 3 months voluntary and then launched Marketing 101, and that was six years ago, which is really cool. So Marketing 101 is now 6 years old. There's 5+ of us. It's and it's going joyfully and brilliantly. So that's definitely the day job, 100%. As we mentioned, the DJing still continues, but I only take about kind of 6 to 8 gigs a year. I was full time, as in I remember one Brighton Pride I did like 40 hours in a weekend. It was something like 22 gigs in a weekend, bombing around Brighton on a micro scooter to get to the next gig on time. So I was full time house DJ, and still do that a little bit now. But I tend to just take the good gigs, darling.
I love that.
I don't need to do the late night Tuesdays, that kind of stuff anymore, which is cool.
Nice.
The most recent is it's Vermouth. It's
Vermouth, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't go into the full story because I think I've already told you the full story, and it's quite a long one. But the long and short of it is I discovered that Vermouth stopped me getting indigestion whilst I was on holiday, which I always seem to get. So I started making my own. People told me I should sell it, so I did. That's the
Love
very
it. And you were saying before, I
version.
find that interesting because I too am a gastric sufferer and on that journey of gut health. But yes, that reflux stuff, the botanicals in there, you were saying there's lots of things in there that are anti-inflammatory and helpful, and
I think so. I mean, you definitely couldn't call
obviously
it
get your own
medicinal.
advice. Yeah, I was going to say,
Absolutely.
don't go out there downing bottles of vermouth for your...
Yeah. Well, I mean, but medicinal is a phrase used in spirits anyway.
Yeah.
Like your Aperols or your Camparis are referred to as kind of medicinal in their flavour, right? But it worked for me. Whether it was they're quite sugary, I suppose. I quite like them with soda water, so a bit of fizz helps with indigestion. But there's a lot of botanicals, barks and herbs and
Love it.
nice natural stuff in there, and it definitely worked. So so I've last year I finally found kind of someone who could help me actually get it to commercial, because what I can make at home and give to my family is very different to what I can sell in the shop. So a massive shout out to Faye at Devil's Dyke Distillery. They mainly sell gins, a few other things, but she kind of twisted my arm, took me under her wing and let me use her facilities and her filtering, and taught me what stabilizers I needed to put in and how to figure out the ABV, all these amazing things, what goes on the label, all this stuff. She helped me launch last year. I did one LinkedIn post and sold 50 bottles. It was wacky. So now Vermouth actually is the brand. Google it, buy it.
You got a bottle with you. Don't
Yeah,
you?
I've got a bottle. We'll have to have a swizz
This
of that
Measure
later.
the cameras here. That one.
Look.
Vermouth, actually, best said with a small Scottish twinge. This is Vermouth. Actually, it's kind of like it looks like an olive oil bottle. I kind of quite like that. It's like a little bit secret. We've got about 300 bottles of our. Which is our current stock, and we've
Gorgeous.
it's wacky, it's a really wacky adventure. And last year, off the back of that LinkedIn post, and actually again, Carl Elwood, I don't know, you guys will know Carl,
Right, yeah.
an introduction there. It was in Plotting Parlour, and they had a cocktail all over Christmas this year called the Negroni, actually on a cocktail bar's menu to go and order your own drink. And Negroni built around your spirit. It was just a wonderful wacky thing.
Full circle.
It's a really cool adventure. You'll see it around a lot more. I think most kind of independent wineries, like wine merchants off licenses, are really keen. So
Nice.
it's exciting.
Maybe it'll be
Very
a future
different.
sponsor of Selling Out. So who knows?
Who knows? Might sponsor it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sarah, stand-up comedian, author, public speaker extraordinaire. How did that all happen? How did we get there?
So went from IT to HR,
Yeah.
spent a long time in HR, got up to HR director, then went, is this it? I'd been doing comedy alongside for 10 years.
Okay.
Left, engineered my way out of the business with a bit of cash, set up my own business. Thought it was going to be a walk in the park. I've been performing, I stand up and acting, and I thought, do you know what? people are going to be queuing up. I had the Jaws thing. When I stood in front of the first business meeting to present, I was like, Sarah, you're going to need a bigger bank account. And
Love it.
and people laughed and they clapped and got compliments, but what I didn't get was conversions. I got a few, but not enough. So I ended up going back into the corporate world. But I do believe in failing forward. So I spent the next 5 years answering the question, why didn't my talk convert? Why didn't I get people into action? And so I went all around learning sales, influencing, marketing, became a copywriter on the side, also wrote a play. I don't know how I did it during that period, but left again 5 years later, so 2017, and created the talk structure that I teach today and use today, which does get people into action. And so today I speak myself. I speak internationally on the subject of strategic storytelling and getting buy-in and that sort of thing. And I also work with individuals, often business authors and experts, who want to create a signature talk that sells without anyone feeling pitched to.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of what I do today. I write plays still. I still perform in my plays. I often say that the business stuff, supports the theatre stuff, because unfortunately these days it's very difficult to make a creative career pay, which is so sad, and theatre's becoming quite elite, and I think it's a shame. But so that's kind of what I do today. I have a variety, it's kind of, I guess, a bit like you. People tell me I've got ADHD tendencies. I've never been diagnosed. I've got mine like a butterfly. I've always had that. Whether that's something, but I enjoy variety and like you, saying yes to stuff. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I do. So I speak myself and I work with people who want to speak.
And you have a book.
I have 2 books.
2 books.
I have a book called... It's really bad. I would say I called this book Cracking Speech Mate. I have a big American audience, and
It's brilliant. I love it.
But it doesn't mean anything to America. It's called Cracking Speech Mate. How to use humour to make yourself an amazing speaker, because that was kind of how I started off before I shifted more into focusing on the storytelling. But it's a crap title. It really is a crap title. And it's one of those things where I wrote the book and went, I've done that now. And then really, so it still sells, but I probably need to republish it. So yeah, that's about, using humour in your speaking and how to put a talk together. And then I've got one called Straight to the Top, which is about pitching and how to create pitches that, that work. But yeah, I might be right. Sorry, go
Where
on.
can we get that book? For anyone listening or what?
So you can get both of those books on Amazon in e-copy. And if you want a hard copy of the book, go to crackingspeechmate.com. And if you go to Straight to the Top, I think .com, you can get a copy of the digital pitch one for free.
I also quite like the play on Straight to the Top, which probably wasn't intentional. Straight to the top.
It wasn't actually.
Straight to the top. Queer to the top.
Yeah, exactly. But I think more importantly than the books, if I'm going to plug anything, since 2017, I've been doing a podcast called The Speaking Club, and it's in the top 1% of podcasts globally, in about 190 countries. So that if you want to get great tips about speaking, about humour, about storytelling, and all public speaking and communications, then that is a really great place to go. Yeah, the podcast.
And you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all good podcast apps, and over at thespeakingclub.com.
Speakingclub.com. Amazing. We actually met, so you reminded me there, we met at the Fringe whenever we came to see your show with some friends.
Well, I met Sarah before then.
You'd met Sarah before.
But
we were friends.
And I took you to Sarah's show. But anyway,
She was my friend first.
So, do you want to tell that story then?
we met at a networking event.
Oh, we did. It was in a little pub, wasn't it?
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes, it was in a little pub. Yeah, it was a long time
And you were
ago.
at the start of
Pub
your
never-
Very start. It was 5
journey.
years ago. Started my journey.
I was going to say that we're going to get onto that leap from corporate because Gary
it
did
was-
that. But I just want to say that the play we went to see you at was phenomenal, and it was so funny, and it tells the story briefly of what it was that you do in your play.
So I love drag queens.
Yeah,
But I do feel that drag kings are a little bit overlooked.
absolutely.
And back in the early days of musical, some of the biggest international superstars, like Beyonce level superstars, were male impersonators. And there were two, like Vesta Tilly was, she was like the highest paid star, all at one point. And so I wanted to bring Vesta Tilly and Hetty King back into the limelight to show what these women were doing, back in the sort of 1860s right through to about 1920. It kind of stopped. But yeah, so it's still. I mean, we did a booking in January, booking in September, and it's me and my wife who have exactly the same age difference as those two stars. So, and yeah, we've been taking it. It's a full length show now, and taking it out on the road.
I loved it, and Vesta Tilly, what didn't you say at points was almost setting the fashions for men at the time, and it was so that because they were wealthy women, and they were putting that into fashions, and people were going to see and were being inspired by.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of them grew up poor, so they were born into. So Vesta Tilly, at the age of 10. Was doing 3 shows a night in the West End and supporting her family. Hetty King, her and her dad did a 70-mile walk when she was like 3 or to do a gig. Wow. But they were trendsetters for men's fashion. If Vesta Tilly wore a grey morning coat in the US, and then the US tailors copied it, and then it began appearing back in the UK when she was as fashion from across the pond. But people were wearing Vesta Tilly boaters, waistcoats, cufflinks, all sorts. So they were merchandise. They were doing merch.
I love it. In the late
Yeah,
1800s, early 1900s.
yeah.
But it also gives me hope about the fact that these things are all cyclical and nothing is, people talk about things that we're seeing now as there are obviously new iterations and new contexts for it. But the fact that these kind of those stars and these people who just like have that kind of thing. And now we see the drag world has blown up, and wearing the most fantastic creations of who they are.
It's come full circle with that.
Yeah, and they are now in the fashion
influencing,
world,
yeah.
and drag queens are now very synonymous. A lot of them, there's loads of different types and sections, but who are synonymous with the fashion world and muses, and I love how fashion intersects with queerness. I'm not saying that they weren't queer,
in
or
fact,
they were straight.
Yeah, they were. Well, they were. I would say they were straight.
Inverted commas straight.
But they had a lot of gay women who were fans in love. Even straight women were falling in love with them.
Yeah.
But if they had ever had any inklings and had come out, they would have had no career, because it was fine for them to be
on stage,
titillating people.
Yeah, exactly.
But they couldn't ever be out.
But also leading the way for people who were, like you say, like people who were,
Are you at the Fringe this year?
No, not this year. No.
You were
I feel
wanting
like
to
I'm
go
missing
into
out.
Go in September.
Which Fringe in September?
Oh well,
No, the
September
show.
we're actually in Tame in Oxford. So, but I'm trying to get the Connaught in Worthing to feature
lovely.
this show, because I think it would be a brilliant show for because you've got the music hall, you've got the LGBT angle, you've got a whole great demographic.
Let's make it happen.
melting pot.
What
Need
about,
to
what
make
about
it
the
happen.
Ironworks?
Sorry.
What about the Ironworks in Brighton?
And we can take the show. Yeah,
It's a fabulous, fabulous show. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us that little. I think that was important to talk about, because I love that story, and you portray it really well on stage. I love it. Okay. Question.
You want me to ask? But we've just gone off.
I feel like I've asked everything. You can cut this bit,
But
Ben.
we
Shout
can
out
cut
to
this
Ben.
bit. Shout out to Ben. Fact check everything we say, Ben, and put warnings on the screen. So I suppose what do you think the landscape for LGBTQIA in your industry looks like right now?
It's a really good question. So if I'm talking about the speaking industry, because of what's happened in America, diversity and inclusion speakers were very well booked. Not so much these days. You know, I think I've seen a lot of people who were talking about diversity and inclusion related subjects pivoting into different areas. Neurodiversity is coming through. It's kind of like maybe some of them are shifting into that, but I think it's been bad. I think there's a lot of organisations who are kowtowing to what's going on, and I think, you know, eventually when things switch round, it will be interesting to see those organisations that were truly committed to having an inclusive culture, not just for the optics of it, but for the, you know, the real benefit that it can have for people and for the bottom line, because it absolutely even makes financial sense. So yeah, I think it's had an impact, and it's a shame. But you know, as I said, it's what's interesting in my industry as well. I'm just going to flag this because it you know, it's, if you know, there's actually a lot of gay women who are in creative art, speaking and all of that good stuff. And I heard a story the other week that a company booked a speaker and they loved what she was doing, but they took her out for lunch and they said, we just want to let you know, her fee was $5,000, that we love what you do. We didn't book you because of your fee, but every other speaker was a man and they were charging double what you were. So she went back to her agent and said, I want to give you this feedback because that's what they told me. And she said, her agent said to her, I'm really sorry, but I cannot increase your fee because it will price you out of the market. And I was like, oh my God, it's still like,
wow,
it's still, you know,
still there.
And then if you layer on, you know, the LGBT stuff and, you know, there's some transgender speakers out there, and I think they've been hit. So it's an interesting time, you know, as we all know. But yeah, I just really want to, you know, those companies that mean it versus those who've paid lip service for it.
I think that's the real thing, isn't it? Because I think if anything that has come from this kind of, you know, cut, almost a complete turnaround on DEI and kind of this almost assumption that it is some sort of like spectre, and this kind of idea of that being this thing that is encroaching upon life, when actually what it is we all know that better things happen whenever there's more diversity, whenever there's more diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity. We know that is true, that's studied, and that's true. But this kind of, like I say, spectre of it, meaning that people are walking away from it. But I think the only kind of glimmer for me is that we can actively see now the companies that were there for the publicity and not for the actual meaning behind it. And then you've got companies like, is it Ben & Jerry's that are doing all of it, that have doubled down into fighting it.
Yeah.
And so we see our allies, and I think now more than ever, and we talk about this a lot, allyship means more than saying that you're an ally. It means like putting your weight behind it and actually going out of your way to sort of help and support.
So the same question in the marketing world, because it's probably come across. What have you seen there in that world? Has it changed? Like Ben & Jerry's doubling down, but has anyone?
Yeah, I don't think I'll be honest. I'm not going to be able to give a very good answer or insight to this question for a very, very specific reason. In that, I don't think of myself as part of the marketing industry. I don't even think of Marketing 101, my agency, as part of the marketing industry, because we are very much a business that has made things up as we go along. Right? I haven't followed any system or rules. I haven't built my agency around anyone else's agency model. I've read one business book, but never any marketing books. I've done no marketing education, and we don't work particularly closely or kind of in the footsteps of any other marketing agencies. We're very siloed. I've just built something that seems to work, and I think kind of that's quite a Brighton. It seems to be quite a regular thing in Brighton. So I'm not really very well. I'm not really in tune with the marketing industry, the moves and shakers. I don't know who the big marketers are in the world. I don't know who the names are, and I don't know how queer people are doing in the world of marketing. My suspicion is fine. I think they're probably doing fine. But I do think that the whole D&I thing is a huge a huge concern. I do quite like that it's been our little Trojan horse into figuring out who the real allies are. I think that's really important. And Sarah, do you know, like I completely agree with you about the way to fix it is to focus on the bottom line, because let's be honest, the big corporates, through either intention or necessity, that is all that they hear. That is all they listen to. And I often use an example when talking about this, because the other role that I have is as chair of co-chair, I suppose, of Gadio. There's two Gadios. There's Gadio Brighton, Gadio Manchester. I chair Gadio Brighton, and I talk a lot about this kind of stuff, both in the kind of presentations at the events and chit chats at the networking events. I think that the best way to just explain this to people is if you are an accountancy firm in London and all of your board are pale, male, and stale, right? You are going to find it really hard to work with whatever the Indian business community in London, right? Because there's nothing in common, and you don't understand their world, and they'd rather work with someone that they see familiarity in, and also, they're going to be questioning, why haven't you got any Indian people on your board? Why, right? So I think just, you might be nice, but out of safety, I'm going to work with someone else. So even if you just wind it back to this really it's a horrible way to have to explain it, but get an Indian person on your board and maybe you can sell to Indians, right? The Indian community. Like it's just so obvious.
I get what you're saying. It's true, and it's kind of because the conversation for so long, and I think people really, especially when I see some of the things around exclusions, from whenever it boils down to women's rights and whether trans women are somehow diluting women's rights and things. These are the similar conversations that were happening whenever in America, whenever black women, the same with white and black women, and is this my version of women's rights? Is that going to take away from mine? And actually, as we said, when you include everyone, when you allow everyone a seat at the table, and this goes back to, DEI doesn't always get it right. It doesn't always create the immediate solution, but at least you've got a place for everyone at the table, and that then brings more nuance and diversity and elevates the conversation.
And don't get me wrong, like I would much rather DEI or acceptance and diversity and just was done because it's the right thing to do and because it's nice. Like I'm really big on people being nice. I'd much rather that, but sometimes you do have to find these ways of explaining or arguing to help people understand. Yeah. And actually, the biggest mistake we made was putting a label on it, because, as we discussed right at the beginning, labels can get weaponized, and that's it. It's whether you think about the term queer or the alphabet mafia, as you said at the beginning, which gets weaponized. But then just woke has been weaponized. What an insane word to weaponize. Yeah. But D&I, it's like something that if you want to turn it into a bad thing through press, you can. But one thing I would say, just by the way, which is one of my favourite kind of thoughts that goes through my head all the time, there's news and then there's life. Yeah. And I think, because I thought that phrase right at the beginning, it clicked when you were talking about, that life is definitely harder for the queer community. And it is. And don't get me wrong, I don't like the way that politics and a lot of the regression of queer rights and the attack on the trans community and everything, and the lack of female DJs in most lineups, right? All of it, I don't like it. But at the same time, for mental health purposes, I like to remind people as well, because there's a progression of queer rights, and then there's looking after, putting yourself first and trying to be happy, right? And I always remind myself that there's news and then there's life. And a lot of the time, actually, if you turn off the phone and stop looking at the news and you look at your friends and the town that you live in and you talk to your neighbours and you go to work and then you have a nice board games night on a Friday night and a few glasses of wine, actually life's kind of okay a lot of the time. And I just that's like something I just really love to try and share all the time, especially with friends who are having a really tough time, because there's a war going on, and there's always a war going on, and they get really stressed and emotional. Just turn the phone off.
I think you have to sometimes step back from it.
Yeah.
But it's important. Step back before. It's important to realise it as well and get out there.
The way someone described it really well was that we're all. It's almost like within our community and all sorts of different communities that are fighting for rights and for progression. It's like in any battle, you have to take rest. So there's kind of, we all take turns in when we go forward, but actually we're all going to go forward together. But you need to take your time to rest. And I think I'm sure a lot of people have struggled with their mental health. And when there was a period of time where I just could not watch any news or could not watch anything that would overload.
I did it for 4 years. I turned off from news.
And it's that thing
completely.
of like, come away from it, but do the things in your community or do the things, just take one step, one action to help move things forward. And I think that's what we need to do.
My step away from the news was back in 2016.
Yeah, mine was similar. Yeah.
When I was out on the road with my last job and in the car, and I was listening to it, and I was just getting so angry about Brexit.
Trump? Oh, okay.
No, it was about Brexit.
Brexit and Trump.
It's the double whammy.
Trump. It was a double whammy, but it was
Yeah,
Brexit
my
and Trump.
God.
But Brexit was really important to me because of Northern Ireland, and I was just getting. I was like, find myself driving around the M25, screaming at the radio, and I was like, what's happening to me? Like, why are you people not talking about the border in Northern Ireland? Why, the peace that we brought? And I got myself so angry that I had to actually move away from it because I was getting so angry about it.
It comes back to education. People who are discussing these points don't understand what we know as Northern Irish people, or don't understand what our community knows about trans people, or trans
they're
people
saying
know
things for a
about trans
purpose.
people.
They know exactly what they're talking about, but they're weaponising it. I honestly think that if everyone just reminded themselves that the press is owned by the super wealthy. The super wealthy do all the bad stuff in life, but they own the press, so it's very easy for them to go look over there.
But that's
they point at someone else. They point at the boats, or they point at the trans community, and it is all a distraction technique.
The oldest scapegoat. It's the oldest scapegoat in the book, and it is that thing. And I think the only thing, like I say, I always look at what are the positives of this? What are the positives of this? And the positives, I hope, are going to be that the people who deserve to be put in prison and punished will be when we get through, but also that we are now able to see that we are manipulated by those outlets. We are, we need to have critical thought. We need to follow. I follow amazing people who talk about critical thought and, look at history and look at how it informs what's happening now, because it is the same playbook. It's just being used in a different way,
Absolutely.
Last question. Last
So Sarah,
question.
what's the best thing about being gay, being queer? You identify as gay. What's the best thing?
I think if I think back to what I was like as a young person, specifically around this issue, but being closed-minded in a lot of ways, not through my own fault, but that was just the way it was. I think one of the biggest things is that as I came out myself and as I've grown up, as I've grown older, I think the best thing is that it's opened my eyes to see people as people and just like live and let live. I can't, it doesn't matter like what people do, what people choose to wear. And you can't help it. You still find yourself like judging, and this is, that's one of the human beings are human beings. We will always judge, and then you can catch. You can't choose the first reaction, but you can choose the second.
Love that.
But I just feel like I'm hopefully more open, more trying to be understanding of people because of the journey that I've been on, and a rainbow is a lovely, colourful. Everyone loves a rainbow, and I think if we can see human beings as human beings and see the things that bring us together, the commonalities of our experiences rather than focusing on the differences. I think that's been the best thing is just, and I've met some cool people as well, and it's good. And I don't have to wear heels. Like, I can't understand. Like, that's
but
one
Johnny
thing.
does.
But
I
I do
look
understand.
at you and I'm like, why? Like,
you know what?
Why would you choose to
Sarah,
do that?
I feel you, but Cherry just cannot pull off a flat. I need a
Sorry,
heel.
but Cherry does wear a croc when
I
they're
do wear a
on the
croc
way to
when
the
I'm on
gig.
my way to the
Yeah,
gig.
on the way to the gig's croc.
You heard it here first.
Only on heels.
Yeah.
Heard it here first. Only on
You've
heels
got
on
lovely
stage.
legs.
I
And
do have a killer set of pins. Thanks, Mum. Shout out to Mary Monroe.
And
Alex, same
Alex,
question.
what's the best book for you?
Best thing about being queer, saying the community just sounds cheesy, but what I really mean by that is the people, and what I really mean by that is the characters. Like, I've never met a boring queer person, right? I have you? And you snapped him up and married him. I honestly think that there is something about that coming out, the rights of coming out, which is like, well, if I can be open about this, and then I can be open about everything, and you just get much better creativity and openness and conversation and excitement and just better lives and people. I honestly just think that, like, don't get me wrong, there's loads of straight people I like and I think are interesting as well, but there is just something about the uniqueness of every queer person and the joyfulness of them, of just having, you know, they have had the weight lifted off their shoulders by coming out. And I think that's something which then seems to be harnessed and drawn on through the rest of their lives often. Maybe not everyone. Yeah, absolutely.
I absolutely love that, and that it's definitely. I always see being queer as a superpower in the sense that we've had to figure things out ourselves in our brain. Whatever time we came to the conclusion that we thought differently and didn't quite fit the rules. That makes you that harnesses creativity, and no wonder that some of the best creatives in the world have been, you know, queer or have not been conforming, because it takes that spark to see the world for what it is, and it's actually, you know, this beautiful chaos that we can kind of live within.
We've all got a little twinkle in our eye. There's no such thing as gaydar. It's just look in the eyes. You know, there's that twinkle of joy and creativity. Then they're probably on the spectrum in the mafia. You know,
beautiful
one
spectrum. I love
exactly.
But what a beautiful
What a
way
lovely
to end.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a little twinkle in their eye.
Or a little twink. No. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you
has
both.
genuinely been a joyous conversation. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you very much for having me.
Fascinating.
you.
Excellent. Love it.